Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell, we'll be talking about a new winter storm that is potentially brewing, that will potentially be brewing across the central to southern United States. The snow will be pretty far to the south for this time of the year. So yes, this is definitely a system that won't be as powerful as the systems of snowstorms and winter storms we've been seeing, but it's still going to be one that could be bringing equal amount of impact because of how unique the situation is setup it is from this kind of system. And yes, of course, a lot of cold air will be moving into the United States. There already have been many locations that already got that cold air, and across the eastern United States, the Northeast specifically, you're not in that cold air yet, but you soon will be. So I'll be going over that as well, and kind of what the long range pattern has to hold. I'll maybe, if I have a time at the end of the video, I'll also kind of touch briefly on that. I do apologize, I didn't record videos for the past 2 days. I was kind of busier than expected. Basically, yeah, I didn't really finish my kind of as many videos as I'd like about this system that we have currently kind of ongoing still across the United States. The snow part of it across the Dakotas was absolutely legendary. You know, there was some signs that the system may be a bit weaker in terms of the snow accumulations there, but there were reports of well over a foot of snow here, a widespread swath of foot of snow plus. In fact, there were some amounts near Bismarck in North Dakota that were approaching a foot and a half. I do believe there were even some amounts in the 20-inch range. So yeah, a very powerful snowstorm indeed. And now we have that remnants of Hurricane Nicole streaming up the northern and eastern kind of United States, and this will continue into the next few hours. This is what it currently looks like as of 6 p.m. That's what the model estimates, and that's looking at the radar. That's pretty accurate. But you know, that's just one of many features we have going on. And look at this. Behind this, we have a lot of that cold air coming in behind this system, as there isn't another storm moving in like we've had for the past several weeks. You know, one storm tries bringing in that cool air behind it, and then we have another system that just bounces that warm air from the south back into the United States, and that cold air gets suppressed. So now finally this thing has accumulated here for many weeks. This cold air is finally plummeting down into the United States, which sets us for the scenario of another snow system. Now, there are many other features that I want to talk about, as I mentioned already. So first off, obviously this heavy rain event that's still going to continue into the rest of today and well into tomorrow. You could see portions of Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts by tomorrow late in the afternoon, 6 p.m. You're clearing out, but right, yeah. So you still have all of today, all of tonight, and most of tomorrow, especially for New England with that heavy rain. And additional rainfall amounts will be pretty significant. If you take a look at the precip, you could see Pennsylvania, New York. If you're already seeing heavy rain, you could expect, you know, across these areas 2-3 inches where you see those purple colors. Anywhere you see that blue, this includes pretty much a whole entire northeastern United States and portions of the southeast. You could expect anywhere from half an inch to around an inch and a quarter, depending again on that shade. You can see the brighter that shading is, the higher the amounts of rain will be. Obviously, across southern Canada, I should say it's just a bit north of the major metros across southern Canada, there will be quite a bit of additional snow that could fall. You can see mainly across central Quebec. That is definitely something we'll have to watch for. Notice the GFS is also showing some very heavy snowfall amounts there. And in terms of the precip amounts from the GFS, you can see it also shows quite a bit more rainfall expected. Now, I don't know if you saw that, but there will be a little system right here, kind of a little piece of disturbance that right now is causing some showers across Louisiana and maybe some snow showers across Oklahoma. This will go into cold air as it kind of shifts towards the north and east into tonight and overnight. So this is, again, a very short range feature I want to talk about, but there could be some even accumulating snow across portions of northern Arkansas, Missouri, southern Illinois, southern Indiana, maybe into Kentucky, into tomorrow. So again, this is 11 p.m. today. This is 12 a.m. Central Time, 1 a.m. So if you live across southeastern Missouri into Indiana, southern Indiana, western Kentucky or Tennessee, you could expect a little bit of snow if you're up at 5 a.m. today. Notice that if you live across southern Indiana, you could expect some snow starting to move in at around 5-6 a.m. and then moving out of there by the time it's around 11-12. And this may not look significant, and in terms of the giant scope of storms we've been seeing, this isn't. However, this could still lead up to a few inches of snow accumulating across these areas. And in fact, the models have been kind of more and more aggressive with this as the time rolls on. So I don't think this is going to be going away, and especially since we're relatively not far out from this occurring. Notice this spreads into Ohio eventually. So if you live across central Ohio, Ohio, right? You will see some snow from this as we push this into the day tomorrow. There may be a bit more mixing going on as we get towards the warmer hours of the day, but if you look at the snowfall footprint from this, obviously you won't be seeing amounts that are 6 inches plus, but I would not be surprised to see some areas that pick up maybe 1 to 2, 3 inches, especially across the areas that this occurs during the overnight hours. During the day, this may have troubles accumulating, right, on, slushy surfaces or on surfaces and elevated areas. There still could be some slush accumulations, but on warmer pavements and roads, it will have troubles accumulating. As you can see, that some of these temperatures that will be ongoing as this system is spreading into Ohio are rather marginal. But earlier on in the night, when the sun is not out, you can see those temperatures are well within the accumulating range for that snowfall. So that is that. Let's kind of zoom back out now and show you the continental United States and go back onto the rain/frozen. So again, that is the first little feature I want to talk about. The next feature is that there's going to be quite a bit of heavy lake effect snow across the UP tomorrow, and across Michigan, and across Wisconsin, Illinois. There will be just scattered snow showers. So quite a change around from seeing many of these areas saw 70s and 60s just a day ago. So that is definitely going to be a rapid change around. Let me show you a different model now. That's again a high res, but it goes out just a bit further than her model that I was just showing you. Again, there's that little system bringing snow across Ohio. It does weaken. You can see it doesn't really strengthen as it pushes into the northern United States and into southern Canada. So by the time tomorrow is kind of in the evening hours, a lot of this will be just some scattered snow showers for cities like maybe Toronto, and maybe some scattered rain showers across New York and Pennsylvania. And then that really cold air moves in for much of the Northeast right there. So that is that. That's the first little guy I wanted to talk about. You can see that the National Weather Service does have special weather statements issued for those areas. I would not be surprised to see some maybe winter weather advisories, especially towards the wee morning hours, being issued here. Again, I would not be surprised to see some snowfall here, especially across the areas that this occurs during the night. So you can see that, yeah, definitely snow likely there, and they do have a special weather statement up, which probably calls for anywhere from 1 to maybe 2 inches. You can see minor accumulations of half an inch are possible. Honestly, I would not be surprised if there were some 1 to 2 inch amounts. National Weather Service here being a little bit conservative, but that makes sense. If we were to take a look at the rest of the map, you can see we do have freeze watches, freeze warnings across the south, indicating that, well, there's a lot of cold air. It's penetrating pretty far to the south, so that is definitely something to watch for. Again, this may not look like there's a lot of rain going on across the Northeast. We do have just a few flood advisories here. That is because a lot of these areas aren't really that wet in terms of the soil content, so the 2 to 3 inch rain amounts, a lot of that's going to be easily absorbed, thank goodness. And then notice there are quite a bit of lake effect, again, accumulations that could be occurring here. You can see some locations across the UP, 8 to 12 inches. That's quite a bit. And yeah, the cold air is going to be a big story for a good portion of the United States. So let's go back now and take a look at some of the longer range models, the one that we kind of like looking at, right? The ones that are more fun, if you will, for bigger snowstorms tracking and whatnot. So there that is. You can see that little system tonight across Illinois really will be pretty impressive, honestly, on the radar and around the early morning hours tonight, as that snowfall footprint will be pretty far to the south for this time of the year. Again, there's that cold air moving in. You can see maybe some sort of a system trying to develop here right off the northeast coast on Sunday and Monday. This really won't have that much of an impact for our viewing area, even across southern Canada. Maybe some snow for Quebec, city of Quebec, and then as it moves out into Labrador, Newfoundland, and Nova Scotia, there could be a little bit of snow there, but it doesn't look like it's going to be really intensifying too rapidly. The next, the whole title of this video is talking about this guy right here. So notice we have a little disturbance that is moving in, or pretty much right now, across the western United States, and as this pushes through the mountains, it will almost seemingly kind of disappear, but you can still see there's a little footprint of snow kind of across Utah, Colorado, and what we do see is this low pressure being very, very far to the south, so it has really easy access to the Gulf of Mexico moisture, which again is still, for this time of the year, pretty warm, and it will continue to be for a while. So notice that as this moves out into Texas, Oklahoma, we quickly start seeing this develop into a sizable storm. Now, this isn't going to be a monster or a massive system, but there could also be a little bit of severe weather on the southern side of this into Louisiana, but on the northern side, you could see a lot of southern areas like Missouri, Oklahoma, Kansas could be seeing some even decent snowfall rates during the overnight hours into Tuesday. And as we get into Tuesday itself, you can see Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, a broad light snow event for a lot of these areas. There will be some, larger metros that will see some mixing as the temperatures that the snow will be falling in are pretty marginal, so you won't be seeing a heavy accumulating event. Except again, you could see most of Illinois starts off as snow early Tuesday morning. That will create pretty bad impacts for the morning commute, right? So will that lead to a historic system with, no, absolutely not. It might not even lead to much of any accumulations, but the impacts will be there. And notice that for the northern areas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, if as it's colder up there, those impacts, that snow could lead to several inches of accumulations, especially since we have some very, very cold air moving in right behind the storm. Now, there are some models that take this up into the northeast and potentially try developing some sort of a coastal storm. Not a monster, even the ones that do end up developing, but you can see the GFS tries showing something right there across New Hampshire, Vermont, into Maine. That snow quickly intensifies. There could be a swath of 3 to 6, maybe even 7, 8 inches that falls, not across the coastal cities. So if you look across New York City, Massachusetts, most likely not your area. It's going to be further towards the north, but this does include some southern Canadian cities. Montreal into Ottawa and Quebec could be picking up a little bit of snow. Again, as I mentioned, behind us we'll have some very, very cold air that moves in. If you were to take a look at the weather, the temperature anomalies, you can see that those colors are nice and dark and purple. Again, most of the United States being covered in below average temperatures. However, that's not the brunt of the cold air yet, because as this system, again, I'll go into more detail on this in just a second, this storm, but I want to quickly show you something. As that system pulls away, you may think, oh, that's the brunt of the cold air, that's it. No, look what we start seeing. We start seeing this powerful cold front and a high pressure that drives a lot more cold air in behind it, and this one is something where another storm could develop here. You can see the GFS showing some snow falling across Illinois, Missouri, Oklahoma. Not a single area of mixing, so this would just be all snow, and it would actually potentially be fluffy snow, despite it being November 19th, because some of these temperature anomalies are going to be, well, pretty much historic, if not record-breaking. If I were to show you the temperature shaded now, so what the actual thermometer shows, yeah, obviously this is a little bit far out, thankfully, because I would not want to be seeing 3 degrees Fahrenheit here in my area, but yeah, further up north across Minnesota, especially where that snowpack is, this is not out of the question. In fact, you're probably already dealing with some of those cooler temperatures right now, but this is further out, showing you that this pattern, this cool one, will stay here for a while. Notice the freezing temperatures potentially getting as far as Texas, Louisiana. Sorry, not Texas, the Gulf of Texas and into Louisiana. So yeah, the Panhandle will be frigid. It's just that it could get even as far south as cities like Houston. And yeah, notice that this affects a majority of the United States. So that's definitely an impressive pattern. And yeah, we'll have to wait and see. There's some models that develop a system out of this as it combines with the southern moisture. That's kind of a story for another time. And in the long range, we will see some moderation in terms of temperature that's expected, though still not anything overly ridiculously warm, with some other systems moving in, coming in. And yeah, the pattern remains a bit of a question mark, I would say, past anything past 180 time frame where this system potentially develops. Anything past that is questionable. Whether or not it will remain cold and snowy, or it will kind of warm up and become more active with some bigger, larger systems, like the monster ones. Because again, we're going to be seeing a system here, as I mentioned, into this upcoming Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, with that snow potentially, but it's not going to be a monster. So again, there's that little feature. You can see the GFS shows that into tonight as well. It weakens as it pushes off, though again, there could be some sort of a storm development off the northeast coast, and that could potentially leave some snow into Quebec and maybe some rain across Maine, but that quickly moves out, and you can see it does produce a snow swath further eastward. Again, there's that little system across the west. It's fairly noticeable. You wouldn't even be able to tell looking at the surface preset map, but there it is, next with that Gulf of Mexico moisture, and this cold air to the north is, well, let's just say rather plentiful, and it interacts with that, produces again some snow. There's going to be areas of mixing further towards the south, as this is kind of marginal temperatures it's occurring in, though nonetheless still a big change on from what we've been seeing. Impacts will definitely be there, and notice there could be some sort of a severe weather threat going on across the south. Nothing too extraordinary, it seems, as of now, though definitely something we'll have to keep an eye on for, as it's definitely easy to discount it. It's a small system, but sometimes that's all the severe weather needs, especially if it's that close to the Gulf and all that moisture and ingredients are readily available. What the European does differently from the GFS is that you can see it hangs the snow around here across the Midwest a bit longer, and you can see maybe it tries developing some sort of a meso low, meaning kind of smaller little low pressures that spin, a little bit of lake effect on the, this time, western shores of Lake Michigan. So we'll have to watch that. Notice the European does also show some heavier snow, kind of like what the GFS did across the northeast and into portions of southern Canada. So that's something we'll have to watch for, if this doesn't, if this intensifies. Of course, with every passing cool blast of air, there will be lake effect that occurs. And again, you can see the cold air behind that storm will definitely be there. So if you do end up seeing a little bit of snow that stays, a lot of that will probably stick in the following days because of, well, the cold air that's going to be kind of left behind there. Notice that as I push this forward, you recalled from the GFS that it showed that cold front with that very cold air behind it. The European does a very similar thing, and then again you could see kind of stalls that cold front now, produces quite a bit of snow for maybe Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, way into Kansas, Kansas City, Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska, right? So that is definitely something to note. It kind of connects it with Pacific moisture right there, so that's definitely interesting. But notice that the European tries to develop this more into some sort of a system maybe. Again, rather scattered, rather nothing too impressive, but the GFS kind of kills it, if you will, a bit quicker. But the European aligns it more with some of the southern moisture, and this is still far out. Again, if this were to develop into a more powerful system, or maybe this is a bit slower, the southern moisture is a bit more, I guess. This high pressure becomes stronger, pumps some of that moisture towards the north. We could see some sort of a larger system develop here. Again, it's far out, so that's speculation at this point. But notice that the European also shows some sort of a moderation and increased flow off the Pacific. So that could lead to some larger storms as well. Though again, the pattern looks interesting, whichever outcome ends up happening. So that's the GFS and the European. I believe I showed you the Canadian at first, but then I ceased to not show you it. So let me show you that again. Again, there's that little feature tonight. There's that, that big system that we've been dealing with moving out. And we could see that northeast storm potentially developing there on Monday. But again, our main attraction here is this thing right there, that little system that starts off very little but produces some snow across Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas. Notice the Canadian keeps it much further towards the south, doesn't show that snow reaching the northern areas. I wouldn't say it's really it doesn't have a good handle on this, because the European and GFS have been rather consistent with it, and while the Canadian has been kind of more jumping around, though it does show potentially some moisture trying to reach the northeast there, but again, it kind of fails to do anything significant. Like the other models, though, the Canadian does agree with that cold air moving in, and potentially that cold front right there, which is kind of interesting. It has more agreements with the GFS and European about a system that is further out than the one that's closer. You can see this one resembles more what the European and GFS were showing. And again, this could be a scenario that the Canadian may be right on, where we see some sort of a more troughing across the west. We see more moisture being pumped up in a larger system that develops here. Though you can see the Canadian doesn't completely succeed in that, but it shows, you can see that if we do have a reinforcing cold shot of air, moisture pumping towards the north, easily we could see some sort of a snowstorm here brewing across the November 21st time frame. Again, it's far out, but it's still something. This is kind of when it's the funnest time, because when it's obvious there's a snowstorm coming and whatnot, that gets a little bit less fun at that point. At least that's me personally, from kind of a weather geek side of me. Yeah, so that is that. Again, I already showed you the weather ready nation map. I showed you the GFS. I do want to show you the snowfall accumulations potentially. I didn't show you that with not a single model, so I don't know why I didn't do that earlier. Again, there's that little wave today. You can see the European shows quite a bit more than what the National Weather Service is calling for. I doubt there will be 4 inches here, but I would not be surprised to see some 2-inch totals, especially across any of these higher elevated areas, because the Ozarks are here, Arkansas. Some people don't know that, but there are some decently hilly and peaky areas here, so that could definitely exaggerate some of those snowfall amounts. Though again, nonetheless, it's gonna be something that's short-lived. Again, there's that little feature across the south, right? Combined with that Gulf of Mexico moisture, so you can see that snowfall footprint really does develop, and you can see it's pretty broad. So while there won't be many locations that see over 6 inches of snow, while it's definitely possible, you can see the European highlighting some areas, especially where the lake effect is. It's broad, so a lot of these areas will be impacted by just kind of a snowstorm that snow system, I would say. That is first on one of the year, so it's something going to have a lot of impacts, and it could be occurring, unfortunately, during kind of the commute time frames of Tuesday morning, especially, and evening. So that's also something unnecessary. But notice the lake effect continue piling on as this cold pattern continues, and then we see that potentially second system produce quite a bit of snow here. States like Michigan, Illinois, Iowa, even if a large system doesn't develop, under cold temperatures, you can see a lot of the snow being maximized here. Again, I also do want to note that with that second system, with this first system that we're looking at, you can see there could be quite a bit of snow across the Northeast if the system tries developing again. Would not be surprised to even see some foot-plus amounts across Maine. So, yeah, that could definitely lead to some heavy snow, including, cities like Quebec. So that's definitely something to note for. And in the long range, again, everything kind of remains more mystery. But you could tell it's a cold, wintry pattern. Definitely a cold, wintry pattern. That's just the way to go for the next 200 hours at least. I guess we could take a look at the CFS. This is a climate model. It goes out very, very far. It's not good at all for predicting individual systems, and the reason I use it sometimes is to look at the pattern. Maybe if it shows anything, more activity in certain areas of the United States, or warm weather or cool weather. Even that is really inaccurate usually. So, I use this with caution, but sometimes I just show it for the fun of it. And again, it goes out to 760 hours, which is just a ridiculous time frame for a model. But there it is. You can see that into Tuesday, it does show that system that some of the models were showing. Of course, it is characteristic. It shows the system developing into much of a stronger storm than what the other models show. Again, most likely not a realistic scenario, but that's what it shows. Definitely, it shows a lot of that cold air. Obviously, that's snow in the short range, but I'm more interested in what it shows. We're kind of past the 200-hour timeline. Again, it shows a lot of cold air, pretty stubborn cold air. More stubborn than even some of the GFS modeling that we saw that goes out to the 300-hour time frame. But as we go out into kind of late November now and into early December, you can see it potentially introduces some sort of a milder pattern, which I would not be surprised after such a almost the second half of November being all cold. Would not be shocked to see that. But yeah, I would say active. That's probably the best way to put it. It's active pattern. Yeah, and again, this probably changes. I mean, if we were to take a look at the one from midnight yesterday, it's probably already completely different past the 300-hour timeline. So again, you can see shows snow, shows that colder, maybe some sort of moderation, but maybe just more of a chaotic pattern, not so much just, cold like we've been seeing like we will see for the first 200 hours of this. Yeah, it definitely shows some crazy stuff maybe going on. We'll have to wait and see. Definitely doesn't seem short of exciting weather. Alright, that's basically it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next episode. See ya. Bye.